Namaskaram. Welcome to Perpetual Life Science channel. This channel is dealing about clearing up the concepts in CSI Net Life Science. So I'll be trying to cover up all the basic concepts every unit. Okay, so we've started with the third unit, and it's very essential to clear up the concepts. If you are conceptually very clear, you will be able to solve the CSI Net questions. Okay, of course we'll be taking MCQs and CSR net questions also. PYQs also will cover, but first let us finish up with the theory part, or rather let us clear up the concepts, and then we'll move on for solving the PYQs. So we've started with replication series, and in that we've started with prokaryotic DNA replication. This is our fifth lecture, so please go and watch the previous videos because it's in connection with the last video. Okay, in the previous lecture, what we saw was the genes which were involved in locating the septum formation. Whether it's eukaryotes also, during cell division, there is a process called as septum formation. So the septum formation, you have a couple of genes involved which will decide where the septum should form. So in prokaryotes also, you have a gene system called as MIN system, that is MIN CDE system, which is involved in locating the septum formation. Okay, and you also have a couple of genes called as NOC and SLMA genes, which will not allow the septum to form in the region where the chromosome is lying. We know that during DNA replication, the chromosome lies centrally, or it lies in the mid cell. Because of that, when the septum formation also takes place in the central position, the septum should dissect, or it should not dissect the chromosome. So to avoid that, there is a phenomenon called as nucleoid occlusion in bacteria. So you have a genes which will interrupt this, or rather which will inhibit the septum formation at the position where the, or rather where the nuclear material is located. So you have those genes called as NOC and SLMA genes which will regulate the location of septum formation. Please go and check the previous videos also so that you get connected with the talk. If you get the way I'm teaching, or if you like my lectures, please do join the channel and please do subscribe the channel. You can share with your friends so that they also get benefited. So in today's talk, what we are going to see is that after the septum location of the septum formation is decided, okay, there is segregation of chromosomes. So before the cell divides, the chromosomal material which has been duplicated or which has been replicated, it is properly orientated, it is properly placed in the two daughter cells, and then the daughter cells are actually formed. So how does this condensation of chromosomal material takes place? How does the orientation takes place, and how are the chromosomes segregated? That's all we are going to say in today's division talk. You know that the chromosomal material should get condensed. In eukaryotes, you know that the DNA material is quite long, and in case of prokaryotes also, the replicated DNA material cannot undergo segregation unless and until it is compact or in a proper form, because the more compact the chromosomal material, it becomes for orientation of the chromosome as well as for the division of the chromosome, or you can say that cell division becomes there is condensation of the genetic material. Some steps in the partition of the chromosome, or you can say in the segregation of the chromosome. So the events which are involved in partitioning the chromosomal material are, you have certain genes, you have the products of certain genes, you have certain enzymes which take part or which participate in the segregation of the chromosomal material. So what are those? You have, of course, topoisomerases. You know this enzyme topoisomerases, right? You have a couple of enzymes which are involved in DNA replication. Like in case of eukaryotic DNA replication, you have helicases taking a part, you have gyrases taking a part, you have topoisomerases taking a part, DNA polymerases, RNA polymerases, ligases, okay, nucleases. So you have a couple of enzymes which are involved in the total process, right? So here also you have a key role or a critical role of played by the enzyme called topo. Secondly, you have a complex of genes called as MUC, MUK, MUK, okay. So you have a MOOC system of genes which are involved in condensation of the bacterial chromosomal material. So you have three genes involved in condensation, that is MOOC-B, MOOC-E and MOOC-F. So together they form a complex called as MOOC-BEF complex, right? So these three genes code for the respective proteins, that is MOOC-B protein, MOOC-E protein and MOOC-F protein. Then if there are mutations, now in genetic studies, one thing is very clear, that you go on for studying them in order to understand the role of the wild type gene. So if you have to understand the role of the wild type gene or the product expressed by the wild type gene, you have to first understand the mutants. So the research is done on the mutants first in order to understand the role, or in order to understand the function of the original wild type gene. So similarly here also, to understand the role of condensation genes, that is the MOOC, first study the mutants which are involved in MOOC-BEF. In order to understand the role of topoisomerases, we will first study what will happen if the topoisomerase gene is mutated. So here also we will study the mutants first, and then we will understand with the help of the mutants what is the key role played by the wild type. What are the three steps involved in chromosomal segregation? Now everything is properly organized, as I said in previous lectures also, right from the location where the septum should be, how the septum is formed. You have a couple of genes involved in formation of the septum, that is the Z ring, FTS Z ring, and a couple of proteins, right? You also have genes which will govern the shape of the bacteria. So for each and every process in the replication and cell division is tightly, or you can say in a very orderly fashion, it is regulated by genes and their products. So in chromosomal segregation also, you find that the enzymes, that is topoisomerases, are involved. Actually, you know that the bacterial chromosome is double stranded, but it is circularly placed. So that also, the shape of the chromosome also plays a role in replication and segregation. We have seen that in the previous lectures, so please check the previous videos as well. Now here, imagine you have a double stranded DNA, right? So you have helicases enzymes and you have topoisomerases. The role played by these two enzymes are different. Helicases, what it will do is that it will break the hydrogen bonds between the nitrogenous bases, that is between A and T and between G and C, right? But topoisomerases, what they do, they are involved in the topology of the DNA. Topology meaning the three-dimensional structure of the DNA, right? So overall 3D structure or the three-dimensional structure of the DNA is maintained by this enzyme topoisomerases. So you have this sugar phosphate backbone, or you have the sugar phosphate bond in the two DNA strands, right? And you have the nitrogenous bases lying in between the two strands, that is they act as the stack of the staircase, right? Sugar and phosphate, they act as the ladder. So in case of topoisomer, sugar phosphate bond is broken in order to separate the two strands. Now there are two ways by which you can separate the two DNA strands. DNA replication process, you need the two DNA strands to be separated. Unless and until the two DNA strands are separated, DNA replication cannot start, right? Now, the entire DNA strands are not separated. We know that from the ori site is the site where there is origin of replication. From there, actually the replication will start. So, the portion or the region where the ori site is there, or where the ori gene is located, from that region the replication will start. So, that portion should be unwinded. Okay. So unwinding of the two DNA strand does not occur entirely. We don't want the entire DNA or the entire chromosomal material to be replicated. Okay. Had it been that the entire chromosome needs to be replicated, then you will have only one ori site. But if you have a specific ORI site from where the replication should start, then only that portion is unwinded. Now this unwinding is done by this topoisomerase enzyme, and the breaking of the bonds between hydrogen bonds between the nitrogenous bases is done by helicase enzyme. Now just imagine you have this is a rubber band in my hand. Okay, so these are the two DNA strands, imagine. So you know that the DNA strands are wound around each other. Okay, so they are helically wound around each other, so that creates a torsion. Okay, when the strands are helically coiled around each other, it creates a torsion, it creates a strain, you can say, on the upper portion of the two strands, right? So as you go on coiling, the amount of torsion goes on increasing. Now this is called as positive supercoiling. Okay. Now what is negative supercoiling? Negative supercoiling is that the DNA is now unwinding, right? So it's just the reverse. When you have two strands are coiling around each other, that is called as positive supercoiling. And when the two strands are relaxing or they are unwinding, that is called negative supercoiling. So this winding process or this unwinding process of the two DNA strands is brought about by the enzyme topoisomerases. Now this topoisomerases, they help in relaxing the torsion. So when the coils, when the two strands are coiled, the torsion increases, right? So in this manner, the torsion increases. But when you want to unwind, the torsion is released, or you can say that the negative supercoiling is done by topoisomerases. The two DNA strands are relaxed by topoisomerases. So this relaxing occurs by the breaking of the sugar phosphate bond, because you know that the sugar phosphate forms the backbone of the two helical strands, right? So we will have, in order to unwind the two strands, in order to separate the two strands, you will require the sugar phosphate bonds to be broken, so that the unwinding will take place or unwinding will occur. So this is done by the topoisomerase enzyme. Secondly, you will have to unwind. After unwinding, you will have to replicate, right? So after relaxing the two DNA strands, the replication process will take place. Once the replication process is over, that means the two DNA strands now form two more newly synthesized DNA strands. Then what happens is the condensation will take place. So after replication, you will again have to recondense. Why? Because say, for imagine I have this two DNA strands, right? And I want the replication to start from this portion. So first I will have to unwind this portion. So you will have a picture something like this. Okay, that is the replication fork being formed. Now, after the fork is formed, replication fork, you will have the replication process taking place from 5 prime to 3 prime. Of course, in other strand, it will be in reverse direction, 5 prime to 3 prime, Okazaki segments, right? So after the replication is done, now you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 strands, right? So once the replication is over, there is termination of replication, and after the termination of replication, strands are again condensed. Okay, the DNA material is again condensed, it is properly oriented and then segregated. Now why this condensation should occur? There is a problem in case of prokaryotic DNA replication. The problem is that they form in case of eukaryotic DNA replication, you have proteins called as SSBB, that is single stranded binding proteins. SSBP, now what are these? SSBP are proteins which will get bound to the separated strands. Okay, so you have these two strands separated and you have this SSBB proteins binding to the two template strands. Why? They will not allow the two strands again to helically coil, because the replication should occur. Unless and until the replication process is over, we don't want that strands to again get entangled or again form a double helix, right? To stop that, you have SSBP. Similarly, in case of prokaryotic DNA replication, you have this dimer formation. That is, once the two circular daughter chromosomes are formed, there is a chance of getting entangling into each other, right? There is a catenation of the two newly synthesized daughter chromosomes. To avoid this again, you have to do that. We don't want the dimer formation to take place. So in the next lecture, we are going to see how this process occurs. Okay. Now here in this case, after the replication is over, after the termination is over, okay, termination is the gene for it will tell, termination is the signal which will say that now the replication should stop. So you have an origin site and you have a termination site. Once the replication is over, then and then only the chromosome will go for segregation. But there are two processes which will go on simultaneously. Which are those processes? Is that segregation and replication. So the replication is not yet over. Okay, just before the finishing of the replication, the segregation has started. So you can understand that these three processes run concurrently, or you can say they run simultaneously. Which are these three processes? You have replication, then after replication you have condensation, because the chromosome needs to be arranged or oriented in a proper fashion. It needs to be condensed first. Okay, so replication, orientation, or you can say condensation, and then final step is segregation. So all these processes are concurrently occurring in the bacterial cell. You should understand that these are all in vivo process, because in vitro, when you are studying in the lab or in glass, then you can halt the process, right? And then you can study one process at a time. But in vivo, or in actually in the bacterial cell, it is a continuous process. So you need to understand this, that replication and segregation run concurrently, okay, one after the other. Now, chromosomal condensation, you have a couple of genes, as I said, that is MUC-BEF, and you have proteins similar to MUC-BEF called as SMC. So, MUC-BEF and SMC proteins, they are necessary, or they are essential. You can say they are mandatory in prokaryotic cells in order to properly orient the genetic material. The material which is replicated needs to be oriented in a proper fashion, and then it needs to be packaged, you can say. And after it is packaged or condensed and in a sufficient amount, then the daughter chromosomes will segregate. So MUC-BEF proteins and SMC proteins are involved in condensation. There is a term called as condensin, CONDENSIN. So together they form a condensin unit. Okay. So replication, condensation, and segregation together they run simultaneously. You mean by partition? Partition meaning the separation of the chromosomes, as I said, the segregation of the daughter chromosomes. In the earlier lectures, we have seen that what are the possibilities if mutations occur in septum formation. If the septum does not form, it will lead to filamentous cell. Bacterial cell will be long like this if there is no septum formation. Okay, so you will have long daughter cells. But if imagine, this is one kind of possibility. The second kind of possibility is that there is over-septation, meaning the septation occurs quite oftenly. So if there is lot of septation, you will get to see many mini cells formed, small cells called as mini cells formed, and they are mutants, right? So you get to see a couple of shapes if there is mutations, right? What kind of mutation it is? If the mean B locus, mean B is this, MIN-C-D-E genes. Okay, these are the genes involved in location of the septum. So we have studied previously. So if this mean B locus is entirely deleted from the bacterial chromosome, you get to see this mini cell formation. And if there is mutation in a gene called as FTS stands for temperature sensitive filamentation. Now you'll have to go for the previous lectures to understand this talk. So if there is mutation in FTSZ gene, then you will get to see long filaments. If there is mutation in mean B locus, you will get small mini cells. right? So similarly, if there is mutation in these MOOC-B-E-F genes or SMC proteins or topoisomerase gene, what you get to see is that there won't be proper segregation of the chromosomal material. Now, what do you mean by there won't be proper segregation? It means that, say, after replication, the chromosomes need to be separated. I have this bacterial cell, right? And I have this genetic material over here, and it's the duplicated chromosomal material, meaning it's already formed. Is the replicated chromosomal material lying in the center or in the mid cell. Now this replicated chromosomal material, if there is some mutation in the MOOC-BEF gene, then what will happen is that there will be a septum formation. You will have daughter cells being formed, but the condition would be that the two daughter chromosomes will lie in one cell only, right? And daughter cell will be vacant. That is, it would be anucleated. So you will get to see two conditions or two daughter cells in which one daughter cell has got both the chromosome, the parental chromosome as well as the replicated daughter chromosome. So you will have both the genetic material in a single cell, while the other daughter cell lacks the chromosomal material. So you can say it is an anucleated cell. So you get to see these conditions if there is mutation in the MOOC-BEF gene. Okay. Now MOOC-BEF gene, as I said, is involved in segregation of the chromosomal material as well as condensation of the chromosomal. If I have to summarize the process of replication and segregation, then I can put it like this, that you have the entangling of the two DNA strands. For the replication to occur, you need the two DNA strands to be separated first, right? Then each strand is replicated again. So you have here two new strands. After replication, you have condensation of the genetic material. After condensation, you have orientation, meaning the replicated material is in the two daughter cells. What do I mean by orientation? Let us come to this diagram over here. Now you have a bacterial cell, you have the parental DNA material, or it is also called as nucleus. You have the parental nucleoid. This parental nucleoid undergoes unwinding first. After unwinding of the parental strands, you have replication. After replication is completed or before the end of the replication, there is again condensation. I said that in order to segregate the chromosome, the genetic material should be condensed, because see what will happen is, if you have the replicated material, it's quite likely that it's going to get entangled. Okay, it's the natural property of the DNA strands that they get wound to prokaryotic genetic material. As soon as they are replicated, okay, they need to be oriented, they need to be condensed, okay, and then they are segregated. Otherwise, again, it will lead to a complex entanglement. You initially have decondensation, you can say, that is the genetic material is decondensed so that it gets replicated. After replication, it is again recondensed. After recondensation, or you can say simultaneously, the recondensation and orientation takes place. Now what is orientation? Orientation is that the condensed genetic material is placed properly in the two daughter cells. Now here the daughter cells are not yet formed. Please understand this, the septum formation has not yet occurred. Formation will take place and then the two daughter cells will be formed. But before the formation of septum or before the formation of two daughter cells, you will have segregation of the chromosomes. And this segregation means orientation. That is, the replicated chromosome is condensed, and as it is getting condensed, it is also getting oriented into its proper position in the cell. We don't want the chromosomal material to lie in the center. As I said earlier, there is a process called as nucleoid occlusion, meaning what? The septum is not formed in the region where the chromosomal material lies. Otherwise, what will happen? The septum will cleave or it will disintegrate the chromosomal material, and we don't want that to happen. So as soon as the replication is over, okay, the chromosomal material will shift or it will reorient itself into its position. So replication, orientation and segregation, these are processes which run simultaneously. Of course, septum formation is also taking place here. By the time the chromosomes are replicated and they reorient themselves to their proper position, at the same time you had the cell wall and the cell membrane invaginating into the cell from both the ends, from both the polar ends, and you have the septum formation taking place. So all these processes run simultaneously. The septum formation processes we have studied in detail, or I have made a detailed video on that, so please check the previous video. You will understand how the Z ring mutation takes place. Now, since topoisomerase enzymes are involved in separating the two DNA strands, as I said, that they will unwind the two DNA strands by breaking the phosphate. As the phosphate bonds of the two strands break, okay, this unwinding will take place. The two strands will separate. But if there is mutation in the topoisomerase gene, this will not happen. That means that the two strands will not get partitioned, or they will not get separated. And due to that, what will happen is you will have a large mass of DNA being located in the mid cell. Okay. So since there is no separation of the DNA, material will lie in the mid position. Mutation in the genes will lead to aggregation, you can say, of large amount of DNA in the central region of the cell. Secondly, I told you that topoisomerases will help in winding and unwinding. Okay, if there is overwinding of the two DNA strands, it will create a torsion, as I showed earlier with the help of rubber band. And if there is relaxation, okay, due to unwinding, then it will release the torsion. It will release the strain on the two strands. So overall, topoisomerase is involved in maintaining the topology, you can say, or in maintaining the 3D structure of the DNA. So it's very important that the topoisomerase gene, okay, the gene which is involved, or rather the gene which expresses topoisomerase enzyme, does not get mutated. What is the fate of the septum formation? Of course, if the topoisomerase gene is mutated, then I told you that you will have a large amount of DNA lying in the central position. After that, the septum formation will take place. Now, because of this mutation in topoisomerase gene, you will have the misfunctioning or malfunctioning of topoisomerase enzyme, and that will lead to two daughter cells, wherein one daughter cell will have the genetic material while the other daughter cell will lack the nuclear material. You have these partition studies being done. Partition meaning segregation of the chromosomes. So with the studies, what you reveal is some steps, okay, how the segregation of the chromosomal material takes place. The earlier model, what it says that you have the cell wall and cell membrane invagination. Of course, now also you have the same model running. That is, you have a bacterial cell, suppose, and you have, this is the cell wall. Then what will happen is that the cell wall from the upper side will start invaginating, from the lower side also it will start invaginating, and slowly these 2 points will meet from north pole and south pole, and you will have the septum formation. This is a proper process of binary fission, you all know that. But here this invagination takes place by deposition of material. Okay, so there is some cell wall. In the previous lecture I have covered that you have the cell wall synthesis material, that is peptidoglycan. Peptidoglycan takes place over here. So peptidoglycan material is synthesized, and it is what you can say, it is added over here, okay, in between the membrane. Now you have the chromosomal material lying on the two sides of the membrane. So this is a membrane where the septation has occurred. So the two daughter chromosomes lie on either side of the membrane, and this membrane is made up of cell wall material. That is, it is basically made up of peptidoglycan, right? So this is what the original model says, that how the chromosomal materials are segregated and how the partition takes place. The current model also says that there are some additional forces apart from peptidoglycan's material being synthesized and placed over there. You have some other forces and you have some other machinery which is involved in segregating the chromosomal material. in case of prokaryotes. So that is, the picture is still unclear. I mean, research is still going on, like how does the material get segregated, which are the forces involved in segregation of the material. So the current model says that, but briefly I can put it like this, that you have this origin site and you have this terminus site. Now we have studied this in lecture number 2. This is our lecture number 5. Please go to lecture number 2 in order to understand how the replication occurs. Okay, but in short I'll tell you now that you have the origin site, that is from where the replication will start, and you have a termination site on the DNA. It's the gene on DNA where you will have to stop the replication. So you can say it's a signal. Okay, so you have a starting signal and you have an ending signal for replication. So the first part which undergoes replication is obviously ORI site. It's the origin site. So it's the site from where the replication will occur. So the first portion which gets replicated in DNA is the ORI site. So the blue colored which I've shown here is the ORI site. So once you have two copies of this ORI, this replication, as I said earlier, goes simultaneously, or it runs simultaneously with orientation. Meaning, as soon as some part of the DNA is replicated, it goes and it reorients itself into its position. It's just like say on a playground tells you to take your position. So the athlete takes its specific position on the ground. In the similar manner, here also, after the ORI site is replicated, it gets shifted or it orients itself to its proper position. Okay, on the two sides of the bacterial cells, or you can say at the two opposite poles. Why? Because we have to have a septum in the center. So once the septum is formed, you will have two daughter cells being formed. So these ORI sites will move to the opposite poles. But the termination site is yet to be replicated, because it's the last site where the termination replication will take place, right? So slowly as the DNA material gets oriented to its proper position, and the termination gene or the termination site remains in the central position. Now once the termination portion is also replicated, it also is oriented to its proper. You can say that the replication process and the movement of the chromosome, or you can say the orientation of the chromosome, takes place simultaneously. But this is very rapid. You must understand this, that no sooner the chromosome is replicated, it will immediately, or it will rapidly start its abrupt movement. So as soon as the chromosome is replicated, it will shift to its position, okay, on the two opposite sides. So there is a point, you can say, that before replication, this material remains together, but as soon as the material is replicated, they will show abrupt movement. Okay, so you can imagine how rapid this processes must be taking place, maybe in a fraction of seconds, I can say, right? So the final step is that you separate the newly replicated portion of the terminus region. Once the terminus portion of the DNA is replicated, it is then separated. So it means that replication is over now. As I said that there are genes involved in segregation, right? That those genes are called as MUC genes, MUK, right? So if there is mutation in the MUC genes, what will happen is it will lead to formation of anucleate progeny, and one progeny which will have both the daughter chromosomes in it. So what are the products of this MUC genes? You have three genes, as I said earlier, MUC-B, MUC-E and MUC-F, right? Now please don't confuse MUC-B, MUC-E and MUC-F, right? So please don't confuse this MUC-B-E-F complex with the MIN-C-D-E complex which we studied in the previous lecture, right? The MIN-C-D-E complex is involved in locating the position of the septum, where the septum formation should take place. So the role of MIN-C-D-E genes is different, and the role of MUC-B-E-F over here is in condensation of the chromosome, in bringing about segregation of the chromosomes. So please don't get mixed up with the letters. Here you have MUC-B, MUC-E, MUC-F, and there we had main C, main D and main E, right? Still, if you have any queries, you can put in the comment section and I'll try to clear up that in the upcoming lectures, okay? So the product of this MOOC genes is they encode for a protein, and that protein has got a molecular weight of about 180 kilodaltons. So it's quite large, you can say. So you have this genes which are involved in condensation, and the molecular weight of this genes is also quite high. A similar kind of function is found associated with another protein called as SMC, capital S, capital M, capital C. Now this SMC stands for structural maintenance of chromosome. I have shown here in this diagram that you have, this diagram is somewhat similar to this diagram. In the two daughter chromosomes, I have shown these black colored sort of triangular shapes called as stands for structural maintenance of chromosome, meaning it will maintain the structure of the nucleoid material, the daughter nucleoid material as well as the parental nucleoid material. So as I said that you have a proper orientation of the DNA, right? The shape of the DNA, you can say. So you can see that the shape of the DNA is maintained by the structural maintenance of chromosome proteins, that is SMC proteins, and the topology of the DNA is maintained by topoisomerase enzymes. So you can imagine that there is not one factor which governs the segregation process, right? You have SMC proteins, you have MOOC-BEF proteins, right? You have topoisomerase enzyme playing its key role. So each and every component of this segregation material is playing its important role. MOOC-B mutant phenotypes have been. To understand the wild type functioning of the gene, you will have to study the mutant phenotype, right? So when the MOOC-B mutant phenotype was studied, it was found that there was a problem in segregating the chromosomal material. That means there was no proper segregation of the material. It means what? It means that this MOOC-BEF genes are involved in orientation and segregation of the chromosome. So this is how the mutational studies help you in understanding the proper or the actual phenomenon of the gene, right? So this MOOC-BEF is a condensant. As I said, it helps in condensing the replicated material, and its function is somewhat analogous to the eukaryotic condensants. If in prokaryotes, if you have condensants which will help in condensation of genetic material, obviously in eukaryotes you have to have some condensation proteins as well. If there is some mutation in MOOC-BEF, that means if there is mutation in the gene which brings about condensation, then obviously it will affect the condensation process, meaning there won't be proper condensation. It simply means that the chromosomal material will remain in relaxed condition. So say this is a condensed form of DNA and say this is a relaxed form of DNA. So to bring about this condensation, you have this MOOC-BEF complex, right? So these proteins will help in condensing the chromosome. But if there is mutation in MOOC-BEF, then there won't be proper condensation. What I mean is the genetic material or the replicated material will remain in a loose fashion, or it will remain in uncondensed state. And in that case, it's quite likely it will lead to problem in segregating the chromosomes, right? Topoisomerases are involved in relaxing the negative supercoils, as I said earlier, right? With that, it will uncoil the two helical strands. So after uncoiling, again it is a way of relaxing the DNA. So MOOC-BEF, if it is mutated, it will lead to relaxing of the DNA. Plus, if topoisomerase is also playing the same role, that is, it is also unwinding the supercoils, okay, then it will also lead to relaxing of the chromosomes. So what will happen is that you will get to see all uncondensed matter or the replicated material lying in an uncondensed fashion in the bacterial cell, and that will lead to a problem, because if there is septum formation in such a distorted chromosome. Say you have a bacterial cell over here, right? And you have all this replicated DNA material, but it is all lying in uncondensed fashion because the gene involved in condensation is mutated, first thing. Secondly, you also have topoisomerases playing its role in uncoiling the DNA. So you will find all the material in an uncoiled fashion in the bacterial cell, and in such condition, if there is septum formation and the two daughter cells divide, then it's possibility that you lose some part of the chromosomal material, right? So there will be disintegration or there will be fragmentation of the DNA material. So somehow you will have to compensate this, meaning what? If you understand that there is mutation in the MOOC-BEF genes, then you will have to prevent the topoisomerase from relaxing, because you want the DNA in a condensed fashion, right? But the gene for condensation is mutated, so you cannot do anything, right? So we are helpless with MOOC-BEF. Now only thing is what? Is that now we will have to stop the role of topoisomerases, because topoisomerase is also involved in uncoiling the DNA. That means it is involved in relaxing the supercoils, right? The negative supercoils or uncoiling of the DNA. So if you stop its function, automatically you have the condensation of the DNA being taking place, right? So you can say that these two genes are contradictory to each other. That is, MOOC-BEF is involved in condensation and topoisomerase is involved in relaxation of the genetic material, and together they help in condensation and segregation of the genetic material. So both are equally important, but if one gene is mutated, then we can play a role or we can bring about a condensation by manipulating the other gene, right? So this is what I mean to say here, is that if a defect is found in the function of MOOC-BEF, then it can be compensated by preventing topoisomerases from relaxing the negative supercoils, right? So it will result, ultimately it will lead to increase in supercoil density. That is what we want. We want condensation to occur, right? After replication, we want condensation. So we want to increase the supercoil density, and this can be restored, okay? Condensation can be restored, and once condensation takes place, the subsequent segregation will take over, right? So that is how the MOOC-BEF play a vital role, you can say, in condensation, and topoisomerases also play an important role in relaxing the negative supercoil. I hope you understand what is positive supercoil and negative supercoil. Positive supercoil is when the two DNA strands are forming a double helix, and negative supercoiling is the reverse of it. That means unwinding of the two DNA strands, right? Research is going on. Now this seems to be very simple. I mean, I don't know how far you have understood, but if you have any queries in understanding this, any of this part, you can comment me in the comment section. But these are not only the genes involved. Let me tell you this, okay? These I have taken from the standard references, because I believe that the fundamental concepts can be cleared by reading the standard books for CSIR. Okay, so I put an emphasis on reading the standard books, and you can see my first video on standard references for CSIR-NET. So please check and go to that video as well, right? So apart from this, now the current research is going on, and let me put in this current research corner that there are other genes called as partition genes, okay? PARA and PARB. Of course, there are some other partition genes also, that is PARS. So you have a couple of partition genes which will help in partitioning the chromosomal material, right? But that all I have deliberately avoided, or deliberately I have skipped that into this talk, because it will become very complex for you all to understand. But in this diagram, what I have shown is PAR-B gene and PAR-A gene. Now PAR-A gene will express a product called as PAR-A protein. Now this PAR-A protein is an ATPase, meaning it will bind to ATP, it will cleave ATP molecule, it will hydrolyze ATP, and it will take the energy, or rather it will derive the energy from ATP hydrolysis, and that will help in binding this PAR A protein to the centromeric complex. So this PAR A product, rather the product of PAR A gene binds non-specifically to the centromeric region, and the PAR B is slightly specific. It will bind to a specific region at PAR S site, okay, somewhere near the origin complex. So you have PAR B located near the origin site. You know what is origin site of the replication, right? So these partition genes are also associated along with MOOC-BEF and SMC protein, and they also aid in partitioning the chromosomal material, or you can say the chromosomal segregation, right? So I hope you have understood today's talk relating the genes and the products of those genes involved in segregation of the chromosome. Now in the upcoming video, what we are going to see is that during segregation you get to see some uh, site specific recombination. Okay, as I said that in bacterial chromosome there is a problem. In case of prokaryotic chromosome, because of its circular shape, you have this dimer formation, meaning the two daughter circular chromosomes can, pass from each other. They can catenate themselves. That means they can pass through each other. That process is called as catenation or dimer formation. Because of that dimer formation, what happens is that when they pass from each other, the two daughter chromosomes can recombine. There is a process of recombination and exchange of genetic material occurring. So that all we'll cover in the next talk. Okay, and probably that would be the concluding lecture for this prokaryotic DNA replication, and you can put me in the comment section what you want next to study. Okay, that's all for today. Thank you.